Chapter 11 of your book asks the question, how do we create community? So for me, community is a word which conjures up this image of a place where you belong, somewhere where you fit, a place where you can call home. How and where does community start?
Nudrat, I think that's a fantastic starting point. Community is about a gathering of people where folks, when they come into that gathering, can feel at home. They can feel themselves, they can feel they belong, they can feel that they're loved and cared for. All those warm feelings that we have about home when home is at its best, that is what community should be about. And that's what we should be trying to do. It's part of our mission, if you like, as a church, as we start these new Christian communities. It's not only about listening to people and finding good ways of loving them. It's also about creating these warm communities where people feel really loved and where they feel really at home.
So part of that, surely there've got to be a few things that we need to do to make the community feel like that warm feeling. Are you hinting at something in particular?
Well, I don't want to hint at particular things. I want to hint at a way of thinking about this. And school teachers will know what I mean when I use the phrase hidden curriculum. It's a term that's used in education to describe all the sort of informal lessons and the informal values that the school communicates through its everyday activities. This is unwritten, unofficial, but the way that the staff listen to pupils, engage with them, the way they walk past them in the corridor, all that sends a message, a hidden message about the sort of school, the sort of community the school is. And what I want to say is that in our new Christian communities, we also have a hidden curriculum. And that hidden curriculum is what we do when we meet together, which sends a hidden message. For example, when people come into the building, if you meet in a building, do they all chat to each other warmly, or do they straight away sit down in near silence? At the end of the gathering, does everyone help to put away the chairs, or do they leave it to a handful of people? If you're meeting as an all-age gathering that eats together, I hope this doesn't sound too middle-classy, but does everyone just grab the food, or do they pass it to their neighbor? Now, all these sorts of things that we do that we just take for granted, they all send a message. In fact, there's a little phrase that I use in the book, which is that everything communicates something. Everything communicates something. So I think if you want to create real community that feels like home, go and look at the things you do. Just walk yourself through in your imagination what happens when the community meets, and then say, what messages are these things, these behaviors sending, and what behaviors might we change to create a more welcoming, a more at home feeling? Simple things like, do we know what's going on in people's lives? Someone has passed their driving test. Do we celebrate that? Someone has passed an exam. Do we celebrate that? Someone's got an anniversary. Do we celebrate that? These very simple things, lots of people do them automatically and intuitively, but just ask about your community. And is it doing these sorts of things? And what happens when people come into the room, and do they get a warm welcome or not? Is this real community?
I guess in a diverse multicultural society, the culture that we live in now here in Britain, that's a particular challenge. Or does it apply even in those conditions?
I think it applies in every condition, actually. White middle-class English people can actually be quite reserved. And can be quite, stand in their little cliques. I mean, imagine your community and imagine the groupings. Are people always in the same group? If it's an all-age gathering, are they always in the same families, or are these families mixing together? Are people being made to feel special? Who makes someone feel special.
Mm.
And think about that, because that's a real calling. Not everyone has that particular gift, but are there people in your community who have the gift of making others feel special? And then are they able to exercise that gift? And are you encouraging them? So I'll be thinking like that. And I think it cuts across all ethnic groupings. It's different in different contexts, but the principle is the same. Are everyone being made to feel at home?
So it might be a question you've answered already, but I'm just wondering, is there any particular habit, a particular practice that can help our new Christian communities be the best it can be?
Well, the habit that I would highlight is the habit of involving people in the leadership of the community from day one. Now, I'm thinking of Tim, who was a minister in the East Midlands. Very few families came to his Sunday worship. So he went out and began to get to know the young families. And as he met and talked to them, they said to him, you know, Tim, community is not our community unless we can help lead it. So when they started their little cafe at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning at the back of church, families would come, but they were all involved in leading the worship. So you'd have little teams of people leading the worship, taking it in turns, and atheists and agnostics would help plan the worship, and they would help deliver it. So you might get an atheist or a Gnostic reading a poem, or interviewing someone, or announcing a hymn if they wanted to sing a song, or even taking part in a small talk. They were all involved. And, you know, when Tim told me this, I was quite sort of skeptical, and so I sort of emailed him afterwards, because I thought, you know, I bet there are not many, I bet all these people are really churchgoers anyway. So I said to him, Tim, just tell me, how many atheists and agnostics have you got? And back came his email, not many at the moment, Mike. That's because most have come to faith. You see, their involvement, it was their community, because they were involved, it accelerated their journeys to faith. And, you know, I think they're a little bit like Jethro and Rahab in the Old Testament. These two people, they weren't really very active in the people of Israel. They weren't really active in the community, but they also made very decisive contributions to that community. So you don't have to be a Christian to be able to contribute to the worship. I think that's a quite legitimate thing for people who are not fully paid up Christians to do. So I have to say that completely shocked me, and it took me quite a while to get used to the idea. But, you know, involve people in the leadership of the community from day one. Keep asking their advice. Keep testing ideas on them. Keep, you know, talking to individuals and say, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Create activities and tasks that play to people's strengths. You know, if you've got a photographer, I can go on. Let me stop.
No, I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say, what better way to show people that you really value them and that they are a valued member of the community. And I'm smiling because, you know, you said people could bring their own, you know, poems. It doesn't have to be something from the Bible, you know, if they're contributing to the leadership. And I was reminded of a song, Caravan of Love by the House Martins. I don't know whether you know that song, but it talks about love. And if there was ever a song that just pushed that agenda of love constantly, it is that love. And I wouldn't mind singing that in church. I really wouldn't.
You see, that's fantastic, Nudrat, you see. So you can bring in stuff from the culture around about. And what I was going to say was, you know, if you've got someone who's really into photography, why don't you encourage them to bring their photographs and put them on the wall, or have a table where they display their photographs? Or if someone's into pottery, they bring their pottery and they put them on a table and people can see what they're doing. And you start building the community around the passions and the interests and the gifts of the people involved. So all the time, keep getting to know the people. What are you into? How can we incorporate what you're into in the community? So it becomes their community. They're involved, they're affirmed, they're encouraged. They just want to be there.
And you create community. Brilliant. That's lovely. So hospitality, thinking about making people feel welcome, the hidden curriculum, those unsaid things that we do, and involving people in the leadership. So you're sharing that responsibility with people, giving them a place and value to create that community. And that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, Nudrat.